I'm not certain that I will be able to attract your attention after Todd's very intrigued talks on really what might be expecting in the future. So I will come back really to the topic, to social power, and I will try to just point a few issues which I think are the most important when we want to consider social power as a global power, not global power, social power. So in global terms, power is the production in and through social relations of effects that shape the capacities of actors to determine their own circumstances and fate. Accordingly, power is either an attribute of a particular actor and their interaction, or a social process of constituting what actors are as social beings, that is, their social identities and capacities. The social relation through which power works are direct and socially specific, or are indirect and socially diffused. In the first case, the power might work in interaction or social constitution. Here, power works through behavioral relation of interactions, which in turn affect the ability of others to control the circumstances of their existence. In these conceptions, power merely becomes an attribute that an actor possesses and may be used knowledgeably as a resource to shape the action or conditions of action of others. Another position consists of social relation of constitution. Here, power works through social relations that analytically precede the social or subject positions of factors and constitute them as social beings with their respective capacities and interests. Power, accordingly, is a social. Power is fundamentally relative. It depends on the specific understanding of A and B, each applied to their relationship, and requires B recognition of quality in A, which would motivate B to change in the way A intends. In that action, power is a perception in a sense that many people can have objective power but still have trouble influencing others. Some people become influential even though they don't overtly use powerful behavior. Power exists in a relationship. Certainly, power usually represents a struggle over results. Furthermore, the principle of least interest and dependence power, that's very interesting, where a person with less to lose has greater power in the relationship. That's something that's contradictory what we usually think. Furthermore, power can be enabling or disabling, and the prerogative principle states that a partner with more power can make and break the rule. The Industrial Revolution transformed the relationship between science and power. Capitalism determined the emergence of a completely new society, new because it is based on the new concept of power and because since largely replaced the traditional values as a basis for moral obligation. In his book, The Counter-Revolution, von Hayek sees the Industrial Revolution as the manifestation of trend in which science and technology, both particularly science, become the reference for any human knowledge and for any moral obligations. The individual forms of power are important chiefly as the instrument of power strategy manipulated by competitors for social power. Freedom is intimately related to social power. On the one hand, social power usually generates greater freedom for whoever uses it. On the other, patterns of freedom greatly influence the extent to which various forms of the social power can be exercised. Although most people think of freedom as an absence of restrictions, this is only a facet of it. Real freedom is the ability to satisfy our desire, and it has the following aspect, as you know: awareness, freedom to, and freedom from. I'm not going to talk on that. These aspects of freedom are inseparable. They are objective and subjective dimension of freedom. Most people believe they have more or less freedom than they actually have, and these delusions are manipulated by social power holders or to influence public behavior. This is no such thing as absolute freedom. The total amount of freedom existing in a society as a whole depends on the overall distribution of social power. A free society is not achieved by trying to maximize the freedom of people as individuals, but by pursuing a balance or equality of social power among individuals. This is because our individual freedom is necessarily limited by our living with each other in society. The restriction of individual freedom tend to increase as societies become more populous and integrated in order to preserve the maximum possible freedom for all. The restriction exceeds freedom when they are democratically established and administrated. Today, only with the global governance is possible to cooperate on economic, environmental, and security and political issues. Global governance without power looks very different from global governance with power. The governance and power are inextricably linked. Governance involves the rules, structures, and institutions that guide, regulate, and control social life. Therefore, that are fundamentally elements of the power. Moreover, the classical question of governance, particularly in the liberal tradition, are centrally concerned with the power. Power works in various forms and has various expressions that cannot be captured by a single formulation. Power is the production in and through social relations or effects that shape the capacities of factors to determine their own circumstances and fate. To understand how global outcomes are produced and how actors are differentially enabled and constrained requires a consideration of different forms of the power. Power has several expression of forms, what we heard this morning. One can identify, for example, four. In this case, that is a compulsory power, which refers to relation of interaction that allow one actor to have direct control over another. Second, institutional power is in effect when actor exercise indirect control over others, such as when states design international institutions, for example, in ways that work to their long-term advantages and to the disadvantages of others. Structural power concerns the constitution of social capacities and increases of actors and direct relation to one another. And productive power in the socially diffused production of subjectivity in system of meaning and satisfaction. A particular meaning of development, for instance, orients social activity in particular direction, defines what constitutes legitimate knowledge and shapes whose knowledge matters. Wherever social power becomes highly concentrated, the democratic principle of equality can only be maintained by making the concentrated power constitutionally responsible to those over whom it is exercised. That's probably the most important rule as far as the power and social responsibility. Social power becomes really destructive of democracy only when it is both concentrated and irresponsible. The conceptual distinction between power working through social relation of interaction or in social relation of constitution are closely related with the terms found in literature on power, called power over and power on. Power, concept of power rooted in action and interaction by which is exercised control over others correspond to power over concept. Concept of power tied to social relations of constitution, in contrast, consider how social relations define who are the actors and what are the capacities and practices they are socially empowered to undertake. And that refers to the term power too. Because power is a property of factors, action and interaction in behavioral conceptions, there is a strong tendency to see its effects primarily in terms of the action of the object of power. In contrast, constitutive power is generally seen as producing effects only in terms of identities of the occupants of social positions. It is obvious that those examining power through social interaction can see effects on the social identities, and those examining power through constitutive relations can see effects on action. One of the common mistakes made by those attempting to analyze social power is thinking solely in terms of individual power, forms of power. Social power usually occurs in big chunks, organized into a system or structure of the power, like a family, community, relations, interested group, and so on and so on. Thank you very much.